Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Well, hello, Aki.
And hello, Steve.
Picard, can you believe we only have 2 episodes left?
No, because it's a right mess right now. It's a whole big, nasty mess. The future's jacked up.
I don't even know what's going on. What is Q's game? What is the Borg Queen's game? Who knows?
But I also feel like, we could say this for the chat, but it feels like certain bad things do need to happen in order for the future to be what it is, but certain good things need to happen in order for the future to be. It's like complicated. Like you can't fix everything if you want it to go back the way it was. Anyway, I don't know.
Butterflies.
You know, here we are. This is Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast, which we almost forgot to say because we almost treated this like a normal soup.
And we started it illogically.
We did start it illogically, my dear people. Yes, today's stardate is stardate
228.422.1.
And we're talking about Picard, Season 2, Episode 8, entitled Mercy. And, things are getting much, much worse before they get any better. I'll tell you what. But before we get into how crazy things are getting, we got to do a little preamble about Patreon, our Patreon preamble.
Yes.
What do you got?
Fun stuff. Well, we have many things to entertain you with our Patreon program.
Let us entertain you.
The most important, possibly, is the Zoom Hangs. We like our community of Trek nerds, so we do that once a month, where we all get together and we just chat about Star Trek and how it's going, really. That's pretty much what we do. Sometimes Aki gives us a cooking show. We never really know what's going to happen, but it's delightful.
Sometimes I show you my new glasses.
That's true. Yeah, we had to, it was help Aki pick a new pair of glasses. Are those the pair that we picked?
This is one of the pairs. This is the biggest pair of glasses, and it's. I told a friend yesterday, it makes me feel like I'm sitting in the front of a bus constantly, just huge windows, which I kind of like, but also feel like I look ridiculous, but I don't care.
They're big squares. They suit you. They do suit you. I like them.
I'm a big square, so this all works out.
If you want to be a big square with us, you can, of course, join us. Patreon.com/setphasers for community hangs, early access to video and audio access, and audio episodes, I should say, live as they happen at patreon.com/setphasers.
Oh, sorry, I was making squares with my hands. All right, let's run it down. Episode 8, Mercy.
It's time to run it down.
Can you run it down for me? Talk about Picard now. Run it down for me.
Such a Picard.
Talk about Picard. Yeah, we did it, even over Zoom. I feel like this has just reminded me as a sidebar that I probably need to make a new one of those for Strange New Worlds.
Yes. Well, in theory, and let's not forget Lower Decks.
Oh, I should make one for Lower Decks. How would I even do that? Okay, well, thoughts for thinking.
Yeah. We haven't had the full Seven song.
We have not had the full Seven song, have we?
The full Seven song.
Well, we should, there's plenty of reason to play it.
Okay. One never needs an excuse to play 7 of 9.
She's 7 of 9.
7
She's 7 of 9. 7 of 9.
Love it.
I really love your, what is that, like a radio station that only plays Star Trek themed music? We never need an excuse to play 7 of 9. And then, like, just as it drops, it was perfect. That was really good.
Thank you. I have had some training.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying you could have a serious show, like on Sirius. See, it would be serious and on Sirius. Okay, episode 8 opens with a curious cold open. It's just a kid running in the woods. What are we watching? A Steven Spielberg film?
It did feel like
he's running in a forest with a big old flashlight,
chasing after his dog.
He's looking, yeah. Like, where's my dog? But he's running and he's sliding and he falls and he drops his flashlight. He looks down at the flashlight, picks it up, and he tries to look at whoever he might be chasing him. It's Romul. It's Romul Vulcans. It's hard to tell in that quick one shot there. It was Romulans or Vulcans. I saw some ears. Anyway, we flash back to Picard and Guinan, who have been arrested, detained in an FBI basement by Agent Wells, who says, you think you can do whatever you want, but I'll tell you what, this is the basement. And Guinan's like, oh, it's not even like the camera's not even on. Like, what's going on here? And he's like, this is where things come to die, hopes, dreams, and as of today, aliens. And he's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this business. Meanwhile, Seven and Raffi are still on the hunt for Queen Jurati. I don't know what we're going to call her. Queen Jurati? Jurati Borg? I tried to come up with a portmanteau for it, but I couldn't think of anything good. Like Borgati?
Borati?
Borgati. Ooh. Wow. I was really so obsessed with the J. You're right. Borgati. It's
Or
beautiful.
Borgati, which sounds like a sports car.
Sweet car. Yeah, Borgati. Yes. And not to flash forward, but Jurati's Borgati's moving like a pretty sweet car. Anyway, Seven and Raffi are still outside of that bar. Raffi's like, come on, do your Borg thing, figure out what's going on, do it. What would you do if she was Borg? And Seven's a little upset, like, hey, I'm not a Borg, I don't have implants, I'm a human now, isn't it sweet? Then she's able to go and sweet talk the the bar owner. I play too much D&D. She goes and talks to the bar owner, and
where they sell potions.
Yeah, where they sell the alchemist
and ale in oak barrels.
Yes, we only have this ale and a mutton stew. Who are you, stranger? Jurati left with the gentleman the previous evening, and so they went that away. So they're like, all right, let's do it. Back into the basement with what I described at least at the beginning of the episode as a very dumb FBI agent. Wells, I did not like his face or his demeanor. His manner offended me. In any case, he's trying to put the screws to Picard and Guinan, but Guinan kind of turns the table. She's like, hey, look at you. Oh, you got something in your past, and this is the camera's not connected, and your frumpled suit, and you don't get a lot of sleep. No, Guinan can read people, very empathetic, and she's like, this isn't professional, this is personal. And he's like, yeah, and he storms out. Picard, meanwhile, is worried that because they know he showed them some evidence of them being at the gala, that if the authorities know that they were at the gala and suspect that they're aliens, then they'll scrap the Europa mission just out of fear of what the aliens might do, which means they will have ruined the timeline again. But little does he know, every group of this party is ruining the timeline, whether deliberately or by mishap or because they're being controlled by a Borg queen. We go back to Corey, who's still at her father's house. I think it's supposed to be the night before. It's curious how time is working right now. She's looking at that video again, and then she puts on her asbestos visor so she can see the room in which her father is working to figure out, like, did he truly, like, was I building a lab? What's going on? And as she's in there looking at what he did, who should approach her but Q?
In, like, the meta thing?
Yeah. Well, she goes, who are you? And he's like, I made this program for myself. I am, he says, I'm a friend, a fire starter, a simulacrum, waiting here for you to find me. And shows her that she was constructed, she was engineered, she was bioengineered in a lab. And he says, I can send you a gift to help you, figure out what's going on. And he does send her a gift to her airlock. And it's more of that blue juice with a little tag on it that says freedom. Meanwhile, Raffi and Seven find the dude. He's a dead body next to a dumpster. And they also find his phone, and they're wondering what the deal is with the phone. And they're kind of like having an argument because Seven's upset about Raffi pushing her to be more Borg-like and calls Raffi manipulative. And they find the phone, and it's missing the lithium that phones have, which is some sort of metal that then Seven has a flashback that they use these kinds of metals when they assimilate you to help your body take on the Borg nanoprobes. And Raffi's like, if she's become the queen, are we gonna have to kill Jurati? And they're like, we don't know. But then they are able to track down Jurati, getting more of these, quote, stabilizing metals by ripping them out of cars in some sort of chop shop around the corner. And Jurati runs over the cars, knocks a gun out of Raffi's hand, throws a 7 of 9 like 10 feet across the thing into a fence, and she's kind of woozy and wobbly on the ground, and she just starts lifting Raffi like Darth Vader style, but with her real hands. She's choking Raffi out, and Raffi's kind of losing consciousness, and then we hear Jurati's voice behind the Borg Queen, and her eyes start to shift ever so subtly, saying no. So we know that Jurati is inside Borgati. Is that what we said? Borgati. We know that Jurati is inside Borgati, but she doesn't seem like she's very much in control. But at these moments of high stress, she's able to get the queen to stop choking Raffi just before she dies. Back to the FBI, Wells returns. He's like, oh, you say you're not aliens, but what about these other people that we saw at the party? They found all the people at the party, and they're like, oh, and this guy said this thing to one of our ice agents when he got detained. And I found you look like you had a thing on your hand that said that you were thirsty, but you didn't go to a hospital. So you went to a clinic, and I found the clinic, and I found this statement that this guy said where, Rios was being like, I'm from the future, and my boss is a crusty old admiral who's like a flesh and blood robot, which Picard takes a little exception to, and also found the communicator. So it's a whole thing. Meanwhile, on La Sirena, Rios himself is hanging out with Ricardo and Teresa. It's very stupid. I don't know why he's got them on the ship. It's quite possibly the most dangerous place he could have them. But, romance is in the offing. Rios is like, hey, what's your life like with Ricardo? And she's like, oh, it's chaotic because of my life. My upbringing was this way. The ship is in diagnostic mode. So he's like, don't worry about it. And Dr. Teresa Ramirez is like, she wants the deepest fundamental truth about Rios. There's definitely some romance in the offing. Rios shows them how to use the replicators and says he can get whatever he wants. And so Ricardo asks for 4 slices of cake, which he immediately goes to eat. And while Teresa and Rios are sort of sparks are flying, they're interrupted by Ricardo turning around saying he has a bellyache. But just before she leaves, Teresa plants one big fat old kiss on Rios's mouth before she goes to take care of Ricardo. So love is in the offing, and we still don't know what is going to happen with Rios. Meanwhile, Guinan and Picard have been separated, and Wells is digging in on Picard. Meanwhile, Q finally shows up. He meets Guinan. I found this quote that I forgot to separate out, but he's like, ugh, I hate you, Guinan. And she says that she felt the emptiness and fear that she felt she thought was her own, but it wasn't her own. It was coming from Q, and she realizes that Q is dying, or as Q likes to call it, on the threshold of the unknowable. But something about him seems crazy and driven, and he doesn't know. He's trying to redeem himself, and what's the deal with this trap? And he says that the trap is immaterial, and it's the escape that counts. And Guinan's like, why have you put them in the past? And Q, as he walks out, says, humans, they're all trapped in the past. Meanwhile, Kore confronts Soong at the house, finds out that it is true, finds out that he is an egomaniac. She confronts him about whether or not he loves her. He says he does, but she's like, you love your work. And then he admits it. He says, anyone can procreate. You exist because I willed it. Kudos to Brent Spiner for this acting here. He got real intense and scary.
He did, but in fairness, it's not the first time. I mean, he's been playing some version of Soong for over 30 years.
Yes. I mean, I added that to the chat section.
Okay.
But yes, he's been playing some version of Soong for so long. But it's fun.
It is. I honestly thought he was going to go after her and, murder her.
That's what I'm saying. He seems so murderous. I was like, you know. But then he just drinks himself into a stupor because he's a big dumb. Anyway, she took the freedom juice. She walks out. She's like, if you follow me, I call the police. And then she goes off into God only knows what Corey goes off into. And is that part of the past that was supposed to happen or not part of the past supposed to happen? Picard did mention a few episodes ago that that period of history between like now-ish and first contact is very fuzzy. So we don't know. Lots of crazy stuff could happen. Do I sense a spin-off show? Raffi and Seven, they're still alive. They're still on the search. And they figure out that using the phone that Jurati is trying to make primitive nanoprobes. And so she's going to be trying to find out how to make better nanoprobes so she can actually assimilate. That's why she killed the guy, because she couldn't assimilate him. And she craves the connection of the collective. They're able to boost to like jailbreak. I don't know how you would describe it. To like jump the phone using their tricorder and find out who she last did a Google search on. I wonder who that could be. Well, I'll tell you, because she shows up. Soong, as I said, is drinking himself into a stupor now that Corey is gone, and his life's work is falling through his fingers. Oh, woe is Soong. And Jurati shows up, and he's like, huh, who are you? And she's like, I don't know. It might be the best thing that happened to you. Might be your doom, buddy. Wells is still interrogating, but Guinan is able to do this like weird, I don't know, self-astral projection thing that causes all the lights to flicker, and she tells Picard all humans are stuck in the past, repeating what Q said, but indicative of talking to Wells, and that allows Picard to ask Wells, like, why is this personal for you? What is it that you are dealing with? And so Wells is able to tell his story, which is he was the young boy in the cold open running through the woods looking for his dag with the flashlight. He's the one that stumbled across Vulcans on a ship in the woods, which I think that translates. I got like I didn't look this up, but I think there's an episode of Enterprise where they have to go back in time and land on the planet. And so there are Vulcans. We know that Vulcans were there before first contact, kind of monitoring the human species actually landing on Earth. Anyway, that doesn't matter. It could be true, could not be true. I could be misremembering. Anyway, he comes across them. They give chase, so he feels. He runs, he falls. He thinks they're trying to crush his head, but actually they're trying to perform a mind meld. They were trying to erase the memory, but they got transported out before they could do so. So he's been left with this memory that has been driving him his whole life. And he says, I knew I'd never be a normal person after that experience. But now he knows that this Vulcan was not trying to kill him. And then Picard is able to tell him his truth, which is that he's from the 25th century and he's here trying to save not only the world, but the entire galaxy. And that in order to do that, he'll need Wells' help. So Wells is still a dumb FBI agent, but I get that he's dealing with trauma. Meanwhile, Rios is still on the ship. The transporter is offline. He's worried about it because he knows something is very, very wrong. Why is he locked out of the transporter controls? What could that be? Guinan and Picard are reunited, I guess because Wells is like, fine. They talk about what Q said. They talk about Guinan's like what she forgot about humans is that they hold when they break, when they hold trauma, they keep it. They don't just leave it, and they work on it in order to evolve, to grow. And that maybe Q is trying to figure out how to grow around a traumatic event. I don't know. We're not sure exactly what's going on with Q. She says he seemed crazy. Wells comes back in with his box. He's like, I've been fired. I'm the man who cried alien more than once. He admits that he hadn't informed anyone else up in the agency that he had found these aliens or shown them any proof. And so that part of the timeline sort of is protected because it's just Wells that knows. But and Guinan says, like, maybe you had to be that boy in the woods who was scared so you could be that man here today letting us go. Maybe indeed this is what was needed. And then Wells is like, well, you guys better get moving. Meanwhile, Borgati is using Soong's equipment, I guess, to make more sophisticated nanoprobes. She tells Soong that he can help her, that he has an option. He's a man at a crossroads. He can either, Picard is going to go in the Europa mission and find something on Europa that makes Soong's work obsolete, or she will fail to go on that mission and he will become the the grandfather of a new age with monuments built in his name. I can't know if this is like true or what this is supposed to be, but it's what she sees, maybe because she's the Borg queen and she has like trance time awareness. And she tells him that if he helps her, she can help him become that person, and they need to get rid of Picard. And he's like, how are we going to get rid of Picard? And she's like, I can get you Picard and the means to dispose of him in return for the raw materials that I need. And so it's as that is happening, Raffi and Seven and Rios and Ricardo realizing that this is the Borg queen getting a 400-year head start on assimilating the galaxy. And what do we find being the situation? They realize that this is all going to lead back to the ship. She's going to come back to the ship and she's going to try to use the ship to do her thing. Soong calls in a favor for Borgati. And what is that favor? He gets some of those spearhead soldiers that we heard about, all ex-special forces that he had been working on to make like sort of, massaging their genome to make them sort of super soldiers. And what does she do to them? Why,
Obviously.
she assimilates. And
And
Soong is
the
like,
look of horror on his face.
yes, it's a dun-dun-dun moment.
It is a dun-dun-dun moment.
Truly a look of horror on his face, but also wonder. And that is the end of episode 8 of season 2 of Picard, entitled Mercy. I wish they would have mercy on us. It's really getting disastrous. It looks like these, let's chat about it.
I say, darling, let's do a quick chat about that.
Yes,
Let's do.
The Battle of La Sirena,
It's coming. It is.
the fight on Chateau Picard.
Yeah.
Oh boy! So did Borgati lock the transporter so that she could use them to come back aboard with her small army to take over the ship? And now Rios is going to be there with a doctor and her child, unable to defend himself against not only a Borg queen but also like proto Borg.
There's going to be a reason they're there. Do they die? And
I mean,
Rios has to live with that?
that's the only, it's a trauma that he will carry and help him evolve into the future, I guess. But I mean, that would be upsetting. It'd be too bad, but it would be the only way that he would go back to the future now, because she's kissed him, and we all know that that's all Rios wants, baby. And she's super, like
Cute.
no, but not only that, like in season 1, Rios was like, I'm reading books about existentialism and philosophy and what truly does exist and how do we live as our people. And she's got that whole vibe going on too. She's like, we've been together for 10 years. That whole thing about they're in a marriage that has staled, but they're on their way to a thing, and it rains and the car breaks down and they're at a crappy hotel and she tells him a secret, and so she wants to know her. Anyway, that's like
It's his
kitty.
jam.
That's catnip to Rios, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
What about the moment with Raffi and Seven? And Raffi's having this moment, Seven says to her, you manipulate everyone.
Yeah, they're both sort of like lashing out at each other now. I didn't mention the flashback that Raffi has,
Yes.
but she has a flashback when she says, I am manipulative, of her sort of like convincing Elnor to join Starfleet, which is part of why she's carrying so much guilt about Elnor being dead right now.
That was useful information. That was good context. Context is for kings, after all.
Context is for kings. How dare you invoke the words of Lorca to me? Yes, that was useful. But they also obviously very much care for each other, but they're not perfect. And we also learned in that same exchange with the manipulation stuff that maybe part of Seven's inability to connect, settle down, is that like the queen, she, there's nothing that really compares to the connection of being in the collective.
I was so interested in what you might think of that whole interaction, because Seven was pissed, and I'm like, why are you so mad? Because she's like, what am I to you? And I think it had to do with the Borg thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I just was struggling to understand why she was pissed at Raffi for that.
I think Seven is, this whole season seems to be about the issues that we carry with us whether they're old or new or fresh. Like some people are going to get fresh ones, some, like history making us choose what kind of person we're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it seems like to me. And so I think for Seven, who's always the one who's like visibly carrying the weight of having been Borg, literally still has the parts of the implants on her, being free, being a human, interacting with people is like so exciting for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so wonderful to finally be liberated. And we remember, and she states in this episode, she was assimilated at the age of 6, so she's finally getting to live an adult life as a human being. And I think she's upset that Raffi is sort of like pushing her
back
to be like Borgy.
Mm.
Yeah, she's like, be a Borg. And she's like, no, I don't want to be a Borg.
Borg up, lady.
Yeah. Borg up, lady. Yeah. What would you do if you were the Borg? And she's like, I'm not a Borg.
I was a Borg. I'm not a Borg.
I can't
Not a
track
Borg
anyone.
now.
I'm a human. Yeah, I can talk to people now and they don't freak out.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did you notice
that's complicated.
It is complicated. Did you notice there was a double moment where Seven says, "What am I to you?" And then Picard says it to Wells.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yes. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a curious.
Draw that
I think
parallel?
there was a lot in this episode. Well, at least that moment I noticed, and also repeating things to people that other people said, or saying things multiple times that can have multiple meanings. Q and But yeah, this concept that humans are trapped in the past. It's not that they're trapped in the past, but to Q they would seem that way. It's that they are unable to relinquish what has happened to them in the past, and it forces them to be innovative in their movement forward, which Q I think is either trying to learn maybe, or is trying to understand as he faces possibly his death. So that's the other thing to chat. Is Q dying? And what does that even mean?
Don't know. And really, if we're going to say Q's dying, where's his son? Where's Q2?
Yeah, I'm not that I like his son. His son sucks, but yeah, where is his child?
Don't know. I don't know if he's dying. Ugh, it's so hard.
He may just think he's dying because he doesn't understand how to deal with.
Is he evolving and he doesn't know what's happening next?
It seems like he thought that he was evolving, but now he feels like he's fading, and so he thinks that he's dying, but perhaps he is evolving, and this is going to be a whole metaphor for death, and how, like, yeah, you go to this undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns. Yeah, I worked in Shakespeare. And so he's afraid what he is.
Because he's lost his powers before. The collective have taken his powers from him. We've seen episodes of that in Voyager and TNG.
Yeah, but I don't think he's ever had them fade in a way that makes him think he's changing. It's always been something that's been removed. So, I don't know. Rios gets a kiss, something else I wrote. Mm-hmm. And also, the Borg Queen turns Soong into Soong. Mm-hmm. And what so this Soong is the one who fathers and or engineers Noonien Soong?
I don't know. I hadn't even thought of that.
Is that the deal?
Maybe. Is that why he was so old?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how. This is 400 years before Next Generation, and there's the whole Khan thing, and those people were made by Soong, right? The super soldiers.
I didn't realize they were made by Soong.
I thought that they were. But I could be confused, because that's like another Enterprise connection. You remember that Spiner comes on there playing one of the Soongs.
Should we Google who?
Yeah, can you Google that?
If you want to know, you can Google that.
Here you go, people. We are doing your Star Trek homework. We're digging deep.
Yes, he comes on Enterprise as Eric Soong, a brilliant doctor of genetics in the 22nd century. I think that this Soong is the one that is responsible. Khan Noonien Singh. Oh no, so it's not a Noonien Soong, it's Eric Soong.
Yes, I thought it was a Singh.
Khan is a Singh, Noonien Soong, but I thought there was a connection. Maybe it's just a homophonic thing, and I'm a dummy. I'm gonna look that up in detail because it's too much to read about the Soongs and Singhs.
We shall bring it back to you next week. Listeners.
we'll bring it back to you next week. But anyway, it's curious to watch Soong become Soong. And that was the thing I was mentioning earlier. Like, is this a bad thing that needs to happen? Like, if Soong doesn't become Soong and do all the terrible things that he does, we also don't get Data in the future, which is critical, you know? And, you know, so like stopping Soong may be like a thing. They have to be like, we have to stop the Borg Queen, but we don't want to stop Soong because that could hinder the timeline that could come, you know? That's a question. I don't know. Trying to preserve the timeline. Anyway, those are my chats. Let's move on to quotable moment.
Quotable moments. What do you got?
Well, first let me dig out the one that I forgot to separate. That's just in the rundown. It's when Q meets Guinan and he says, Guinan says, "Oh, you're Q," and he says, "And you are the multi-celled sanctimonious droning shrew known as Guinan." I thought it was a lot.
Is that what he said when he met her in TNG as well?
I can't remember.
I'm sure he said other things to Guinan like that.
Something like that, yes. And he does mention in that scene that he's like, "We have yet to meet, I forget." Also, he's gone back in the past to give himself more time. Is that a thing that's happening? He says he has a lifetime now. I don't know. What's my next quote? I liked Wells's quote when he comes in and he's, you know, obsession's only obsession until it pays off. Then it's diligence. This alien hunter's conspiracy theorist. Yeah, because when Lorca comes back, you better believe I'm going to say that quote to you. Okay? Just prepare yourself. When Lorca comes back and he's the big bad at the end of season 1 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, I'm going to say obsession is only obsession until it pays off.
Then it's diligence. Oh, God.
Did you have anything? I have 2 more, but I feel like 1 you're definitely gonna have.
Probably. I had 2, and I had 1. Raffi to 7. You're gonna have to Borg up, lady. Love that.
Loved it.
You
I want a
probably have
t-shirt
this
that
one.
says,
Pardon?
"You're gonna have to Borg up." I want a t-shirt that says that.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
My other was Guinan. I think when Picard says, "What time is it?" and she goes, "I'm sensitive to space-time continuing. I'm not a clock."
Yeah. That was very good. Yes. And I guess then the last one is just the final line of the episode. Jurati, as she, Borgati, as she assimilates the soldiers, she says, "Who's in the mood to add a little of their biological and technological distinctiveness to our own?" Which I thought was so crazy and insane. And again, Alison Pill just doing a bang-up job.
Alison
just
Pill,
playing completely against her type from season 1. Just immensely good.
Showing so much. Oh shit! She's showing a lot of depth. She's demonstrating a lot of depth in her acting
broad,
skills.
dramatic range. Just remember, Killer Warrior Romulan. Never forget.
Elephants never forget Killer Warrior Romulan nuns.
Elephants never forget Killer Warrior Romulan nuns. I mean, it's easy to say as it is to remember. Okay, well, that's quotable moments,
boy.
Ladies and gentlemen. I guess we're moving on to next time, unless there's news.
Oh no, I forgot. No news this
no
week.
fancy news.
Oh dear.
No news.
Next time.
On to next time.
On Set Phasers.
Yeah, baby. Next time on Set Phasers, we'll be talking about the penultimate episode of Season 2 of Star Trek Picard, Episode 9, entitled, as I Googled, Hide and Seek. So perhaps this will not be the outright battle that we suspect. Perhaps it will be a match of wits and or investigation. In any case, we'll be here doing that. And if you enjoyed this episode, then tune in for that episode. We put out new episodes of our podcast every week that there's Trek when we can, as long as I don't screw things up. And you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. So do that. Find us and tell somebody else about us and stuff.
Follow us. That's the new thing. It's not subscribe anymore. It's follow.
Yeah, don't subscribe. Just follow.
Yeah, do leave us a rating as well. It apparently it makes absolutely no difference about people finding us, but people still say that it does. It's bullshit. I know. But please do follow us on Patreon. That actually does make a difference. because, we can buy nerdy things for ourselves. We can create t-shirts that say, hey, Borg up, lady, if you want
Hey,
one.
Borg up, lady.
Just, we do what people want. If that's something you would desire and we could have our little logo somewhere on it, I'll do it. Why not? I'll tell my wife. She makes things.
Indeed. I just realized that shirt out of context would look very strange on me, but hey, whatever.
Borg.
I'm going to wear it. Hey, Borg up, lady, on my shirt.
Borg
I'm
up,
just like,
lady.
Can I get a cappuccino, please?
That's
Yes.
cute.
Also, we're on social media. Of course we are. As Set Phasers Podcast. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Feel free to follow us and join in the conversation of all things Trek. Meme Game Strong, that's Stevie.
Mm-hmm. That's what is it? It's at Set Phasers and at Set Phasers Podcast.
Yes, at Set
Whoopie
Phasers
doopie.
and at Set Phasers Podcast. And fuck.
Shit. Until next time, I am the swearing sailor Stevie.
And I am nothing but a pig in a jar. And this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.